Hello everyone, welcome to Court of the Rings on twitch.tv/LotraStream. I'm your community manager, Kurt Oven, and welcome to your pre-holiday Friday in the United States. Hello. That was my son there. So today, I just have a little bit of news, and then I'm going to be heading in-game and running some of the story of the Song of Waves and Wind. It's taken a long time to get through this story, mostly because I've been doing other things on all the Court of the Rings that we've had pretty much since Update 36 released, with guests and interviews and what have you, but today's going to be a little bit slower of a show, I suppose you could say. We have our kitty in the camera here as well. Yep.
Mad kitty.
So that's what we got going on here today. We're just kind of hanging out. Should be a pretty casual show. I do have a little bit of news I'll share with you. We got some hot sales going on. We got some bonuses happening in game, and we ourselves too are heading into the holiday weekend. A lot of people have to work Monday. I'll be working on Monday, but a lot of people have Monday off as well. It's the 4th of July holiday, Independence Day in the United States, which is one of the big holidays of the year. So, for those of you who aren't aware, although I can't imagine there's a lot of you who aren't aware, but just in case, how are you all doing here today? I'm quick checking my calendar for bull roars and other schedules, so I'll have a little bit about that throughout the show here. Oh, you're right. I forgot to turn off. I've got a portable AC. Well, portable AC. That's one of those kind of standing ones that you hook up with the tube to the window. It's off now. That should make a difference. All right. So what do you got going on here this holiday? Let me switch over to a bit of news, and then let's get going with the show, shall we? All right. First thing I wanted to mention is we did have update 36.0.2 get released this week. It was a fairly small patch. The next patch after this is set for not next week, potentially the week after, and that would be update 36.1. So that's really the next downtime of note, really, to mention would be not quite 2 weeks from now. We'll have another patch. It too, I don't think is going to be a real big patch, but it's going to have some things of substance in it that I'll probably have more information about for next Friday's show, I would think. But update 36.0.2 got released this week on a Tuesday. We haven't actually done a lot of Tuesday releases of late, but we did one this week. And the main reason we did it a day early rather than Wednesday is because there were some game performance fixes in it related to delvings. And we wanted to make sure that if it caused some kind of problem, we would have time to correct it. Seems to have gone fine, though, so it was fine. But that's why we did it on Tuesday this week instead of Wednesday, because if we say released Wednesday at noon, and by Wednesday mid-afternoon or something like that, we had heard of some issues that would require us to pull another build, it takes at least 24 hours to get a build done and checked and all the rest, which meant that we would be propping it on a Friday. And if there's one is it altruism? Is that the correct word? If there's one truth for game development, it is don't release your stuff on a Friday. It's a really bad idea, because if anything goes wrong, not only are you hurting the most number of players through the weekend, but you're yourself working through the weekend to try to correct it. So we try not to release on Friday unless absolutely necessary. It was mostly just some polish, though. We have a Warden fix with the Cardolan Essence of Mastery. Tokens of Heroism are now properly working after you've been defeated. It's a delving thing. The Needful Haste Duration Traceries from the following packages are being replaced with Ranged Attack Evade and Block Chance Traceries, since the Huntsman Hunters don't actually have access to Needful Haste. The 4-piece set bonus of the Armor of the Dingil now properly guarantees a devastating hit after using aim. We fixed some localization issues in French and German. We did some work on the PVMP side, specifically related to the mount speed of the Mahogany Bay Horse. It's now set at its proper plus 68%. Tinctures that formerly boosted Audacity were causing some problems, so we're changing it to grant a we changed it to grant a 5% boost to commendation earns for an hour, and you can only use it once per hour. Audacity scrolls dropping from loot boxes for monster players are now correctly bound to account. Actually, speaking of loot boxes, I will be working on a page sometime next week, I believe, for publication around Update 36.1 with some of the updates that are in the loot boxes. It's a sensitive subject, right? Because people have varying opinions about loot boxes in gaming in general. But one of the things that's been brought to our attention is those who do want them kind of want to know what the new stuff is. And we've not been very good about letting people know what the new stuff is when we add it to our loot boxes. So I'm going to be working on an article page for publication probably around Update 36.1. That's going to have some assets and just say, like, yo, here's the new stuff. If you don't like loot boxes, just ignore it. But if you are interested in that sort of thing, to want to know what is new in them, we're going to try to be better about that on an ongoing basis. About here's what we've added, and we'll see. We're not actually adding anything more or doing anything special. We're just, in some cases, finally letting you know what we're actually putting in there. Quest missions and adventure areas implemented a fix to increase performance in delving missions and instances, and that is the big impetus for Update 36.0.2. There was some kind of behind-the-scenes communication going on with delvings that was causing some not insignificant game performance issues, and so we wanted to make sure we got that fixed, and that is why we have a 0.2 patch for Update 36 here. The mission Dangerous Deliveries is now functioning properly again. The weekly quest Delve Deepest now properly refers to 3-6 people instances. The Delving Quartermasters and Mission Givers have been added to 8 additional skirmish camps. Rohan Awaits has had its minimum level to begin it reduced to 72 from 74. You can now turn it in also if you've already completed the storyline at Langold and the Wold. It's a long-standing kind of functionality issue there that we're finally taking care of. Healers in the Angmar Reborn and Gondor Renewed questing hubs will now sell draughts, salves, and other items at all levels. And the strange file found in the abandoned wagon in Upper Lebanon will again bestow a trail-marked Indagear. Yeah, that's some cool functionality. Seal Nom to maybe do a right-click and get a preview of some of the stuff in the loot boxes. That's a little beyond the scope of this intended change. But one of the things we're looking to do is like I said, just sort of give people a heads up. For those who are interested, maybe you got some free keys even, and you want to know, is it worth spending on it now or should I wait? It'll help with that. Have we fixed the lag? Well, there will always be ongoing work to be done on game performance, and that's something that when Sev was here, our executive producer Severlin, 2 weeks ago, we talked quite a bit about some of the work that is being done to address game performance. We've been working on it, we will be working on it. We do actually have some dedicated resources working on it over the next quarter or two. And so I would expect to see more in upcoming release notes as well. We have, it looks like at least, fixed this particular source of delving-related game performance. So, like with all questions of did we fix lag, yes and no. If it would be lovely if there was a singular source of lag that we could resolve permanently, but unfortunately that is not reality. So. Enathalos wants us to increase the quest log limit. We did increase it to 10 not that long ago, but yes, you raise a good point. With mission, delvings, daily, weekly wrappers, etc., it still gets flooded pretty quick. We'll have to see what we could do perhaps in the future to offer better functionality there. Alright, so I guess I've talked enough about Update 36.2. This is a little bit on the old news side, so let's get to some of the new news side on something also old, which is that we've been lagging behind getting our soundtracks up on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/Lord of the Rings. And the Update 32 soundtrack is now live as of this week. So we got 7 tracks from Update 32 by composer Bill Champagne. And that's now available on our YouTube channel. When I was doing the work to get these videoized, I guess you could say, I also took care of Update 33, 33.1, 34, 35, and 36, although there's a little bit of work on some of those yet. I have to redo a few tracks because image issues. But whatever. The main point is that we're in the process of rolling out all of our updated soundtracks through Update 36 here in the coming weeks. Yeah, I want to spread them out so that it's not just like one massive dump on our YouTube channel of song files. Kind of helps a little bit with kind of hype and social media and that to spread it out a bit. Plus, you first have to make the files, and then you got to get it up on YouTube and do all the track listings and all that. And this work kind of has to fit into the margins of other things that I'm doing. But I would expect to see us start to roll this out by Update 33 next, within the next couple of months. My hope is by the end of a couple of months here, we'll have all the soundtracks up on our YouTube channel through Update 36. So that's pretty cool. I know players would like us to have other ways to offer the music. All I can really say about that is this is what we can do right now. And perhaps in the future there may be other ways, things that we can do. But for now, this is how it can get done. So it's kind of a matter of, well, I can either make them as video files and put them on our YouTube channel, or they kind of just don't get available outside of players doing their own methods to get the soundtracks. So I would love to see like maybe them all on Spotify or those kind of streaming services, or perhaps even just available to download somewhere. And thoughts of, there have been quite a few conversations about how we could do that and what the process would be, but there's some specific roadblocks to being able to just offer the soundtracks as digital files to download. Has to do with licensing and things like that. So, but it's okay to put them up on YouTube as soundtrack files like we do. So that's going to continue here for as long as I can make it happen. We do have a couple of things happening that I want to make sure you redeem/do before it runs out. That is, you have until 1 p.m. Eastern on July 5th. So you have less than a week to use the Lotro MTGO 2023 code. LOTRO MTGO 2023. Enter it in the coupon code and redeem code through the Lotro store in-game. And you will get a Samwise Gamgee Loyal Attendant that we showed off last week. The portrait frame, the riding skill, and a universal toolkit. This is kind of a special one-off here. I know that we will probably find ways to offer both the Samwise Attendant and the portrait frame in the future. Some player had suggested maybe it would make sense for a fall Harvest Math Festival reward. That would probably make sense. Other options might be to bring it to one of the vendors like the Curator or something like that. Regardless, though, I do think we'll see this in the future, but this is where you can get it for now. And you have until through Tuesday, until 1 p.m. Eastern on Wednesday to do it. So if you have not redeemed the code, if you know someone who you don't know has redeemed the code, let them know about it. This is an easy, free way to get this stuff. Enter Lotro MTGO 2023 and redeem code in the Lotro store in-game to get this stuff. That code also does work in Magic the Gathering Online as well, and there you'll get 4 event tickets or 50 play points along with the Samwise Gamgee avatar. And we did the Magic the Gathering thing last Friday, so I'm not going to repeat myself too much about that. But it's a cool cross-promo that we were able to do because Magic the Gathering Online is doing a whole bunch of Lord of the Rings stuff, and they're also published by Daybreak. And so we were able to get the marketing teams together to be like, hey, why don't we do a thing? And it was kind of neat to be able to do that. And I'm hoping we can do more of that sort of thing when it makes sense in the future. Not related to Magic the Gathering Online, but related to Magic. Did you guys hear? The One Ring Magic card got found. I just read it before I went live here today. On the most recent Magic set, there was the One Ring card. It got found. Went straight to resellers. we're going to make massive amounts of money on it. The news article I read from Polygon, I believe, had said it was already offers of more than $2 million. Offers of more than $2 million for that one ring. Someone won the lottery. Yeah, anyway. I also want to mention, because time is running out on this as well, that the Midsummer Festival continues through July 4th as well. So that gets shut off at 3 a.m. Eastern on the 5th. So this is your final weekend to run the Midsummer Festival. You do have time to run it. You can definitely spend this weekend running it and get some stuff. So if you're interested, go to Lord of the Rings, Lotro.com. We have our guide up here if you need some help figuring out what to do, how to do it. And appreciate everyone's interest in Midsummer this year. It seems like it went pretty well. And really it was new rewards here this year. We didn't have new events per se, but we did have new rewards for the Midsummer Festival. And then finally, let me talk a little bit about sales and bonuses. First one is we have a 25% XP boost this weekend, so if you're looking to get some XP, now's a great time to run through the game. This is also through July 4th. We also debuted a bunch of special sales in the Lotro Market. Now, that's the one you get to through Lotro.com. That's not the in-game store, that's the external store. And we have 25% off Fate of Gundabad, 50% off War of Three Peaks, 75% off Mortar, and 75% off Minas Morgul. So if you've not purchased those, this is a really good opportunity to pick up those expansions in the Lotro Market. Now, that sale runs through July 9th. So most of our weekly sales run through Thursday. That one's going an extra weekend and going through July 9th here. So do pick it up if you're interested. This is probably the best deal you're going to get on it. So we've also added to the Lotro store permanently as of yesterday, healers and instrument carry-alls. Instruments will carry instruments, and healers carry-all is healing potions. Every time we bring up carry-alls, it's common to see some feedback of, yeah, but you can't use anything from them. And that's true, so you should know that going in. Specifically when it comes to healing potions, they're a way to contain them in a carry-all, but you can't, say, then bring it to your hotbar and use it. That would be lovely functionality to have. The technology that's the core of carry-alls doesn't currently allow for things to be used from them. So that's a technical limitation that maybe someday we'll be able to resolve, but it is something to be aware of if you want to pick up one of these carry-alls. We have added double bonus points plus, so you get twice the bonus points through July 9th, but you also get a number of elixirs of virtue depending on the size of the package you pick up in the Lotro store. So that's in the Lotro store. We've got the expansions in the market and double bonus points in the Lotro store. Also this week for our summer sales, and there'll be 1 week beyond this one. This is our, 4th of 5? You can get 35% off plus 2,000 Virtue Acceleration, 50% off plus 5,000 Enhanced Rep Supply, 75% off 100% Mark Acquisition Boost, and that runs through next Thursday. And then our free coupon is Heroism for a free Elixir of Heroism. Alright. And that is what I've got for the news here this week. I could mention that there is a thread from Myth on the Bjorning on the Lotro forums as well. So if you haven't had a chance to see all the extensive work that the systems team is doing on classes, you can find that over in the Lotro forums. I also wanted to make sure I raise awareness of it. We did make an announcement on the forums and on social media, but I don't know how many people are able to catch it all the time. We were able to finally add the functionality that you can set your own custom forum titles on the Lotro forums now. Gone, thankfully for me at least, are the days where it's a manual process where you need to tell me what you want your title to be, and I have to go into the admin panel and then override the user promotion system with a custom forum title. We've added the functionality that you can do it yourself. So we've seen a lot of players on the forums already take advantage of that. But if you ever wanted a forum title, these are not in-game titles, these are forum titles. So they're the things that display under your name on the forums. You can set it yourself. basic community rules apply, just like with avatars or anything else. But as long as it's within the rules, you're cool. So. I'm hoping to have Myth on at some time here in the coming weeks to talk a little bit about the classwork that they're specifically involved in. So maybe you get a chance then to ask whether it's a reference to Thrawn. I have no idea. I would assume so if it's a thing that you recognize, but I have no idea. Arabani wants to know what classes River Hobbits will be able to be. I can't give you those details. Sorry, you're going to have to wait until we get closer to River Hobbits getting a preview on Bull Roar, and that's where you'll get the answer to some of the technical questions. We'll have release notes up on River Hobbits as well when the time comes, but that will be information I can't give you today, and I apologize. I'm going through chat. Someone wants to know how you change landscape difficulty. A bunch of places to do it. The one I would recommend, although I noticed someone say in front of Thorin's Hall also works, but there's one in the outside of the Prancing Pony. And since Bree is a pretty easy place to get to, that's probably the default one I would recommend, is head over to the Prancing Pony and you can speak to one of the hardened travelers there. Sorry, Martin, I can't provide information about what classes River Hobbits are going to be able to be. Alright, I think we're good, so let's head... Set in game, and I will do some questing here. It's nice to actually be able to just run around a little bit. I'm only on 1.2. I'm saving this character's story completion for the live stream for the most part here. So, although if you'll notice, the last time we last played this character, Stampion, on Landreval, I was in the city, picking up like rocks and things like that. So I did go and clear out some of the tasks that I had started on the stream last time, and got myself ready to really do the next batch here. So, yay! I'm going to look at some rocks, free some people, and take care of some problems. That's what I'm up to. Probably go around. Alright. I'm not sure what you've got going on in your neck of the woods, but if you got something happening on a community event or some such, let me know. I'll be scheduling our social media for the weekend here a little bit later on this afternoon, and so now would be a great time to tweet out yo thing and at Lotro about it, and then I'll make sure to get the word out. So, all right, this is where we want to be. I think the volume might be set a little loud. Let me see. Unless my volume was just a little loud. Let me also take a minute to get the screen on the side. There we go. You know, just related to a forum, I'm not quite sure what you're asking about, Lariana, about stealing nicknames, but it's interesting. One of the big concerns when we were debuting the new forums is there was a bunch of people concerned that they were going to get their names sniped. And I guess I could say at this point, just given how little it's actually happened, that I have had exactly two, one on each game. I have had 2 cases of people stealing names that had to correct. So overall, it was a legit fear, of course, but apparently it was a largely unfounded one, because turns out, which was my hope, those who really cared would just grab their name right away before someone else could get it. If I end up causing a few other people to come forward by this comment, well, that's cool. I mean, I don't want anyone to steal anyone's name, so we can and will take care of it. But turns out it was exactly one issue on the Lotro side and 1 issue on the other game side. And that didn't seem too bad to me, so... Which is nice. That we have a well-behaved community for the most part. And, didn't really have to worry about it, turns out. I could mention, I don't think that this has really come up much on the Lotro side, but there was an issue that's been a much bigger issue on the other game side, but also can happen on Lotro, which is that the forum staff tracker has been flaky a few times, and we were able to track down what was causing it this week, and put in a temporary fix for now, while we work toward a more permanent fix in the future. So, if you've gone to click on Staff Tracker in the Lotro forums, only to get nothing, like no results returned, we were able to figure out what was causing that this week, and get it resolved. It really had to do with sort of a lack of robustness of the Staff Tracker tech that's used by the new forums. And that technology essentially just picks by user group, and it says, "Are you a Cordovan? Then I display you," you know. Which is fine, except that there are a few closed sections of the forums, the reported posts being the biggest culprit. So when I'd be going through reported posts and doing the work that I had to do related to them, I would occasionally cause myself issues where it would cause the staff tracker to go brain dead. And we were able to identify how to prevent that from happening here and take care of it. So if you've run into that issue of late, we now should hopefully not. What we've got it doing instead is, instead of going brain dead, it's going to at least return something like the most 15 recent results. So that'll still cause a problem in terms of being able to go back and look for things when it does go brain dead on you, but it'll at least return recent stuff, is the idea. I don't know, Major there. I don't know why I use that terminology. I just have it, I guess. I can change it if people want. I think it really comes back to, there was a time when I used different terminology, and I would just, on the DDO side, talking about Lotro, I'd say Lotro, and then on the Lotro side, when I was talking about DDO, I'd say DDO. And there would be a few people on, like, afterwards who'd be like, "Oh, you just keep talking about the other game." And so I think it was just a way to help minimize that feedback. But, yeah, fine by me. I don't care. Do not get away from me. Oh, nice. Little redhead. Treebeard having its second anniversary with a party at the Bree Festival grounds starting at noon Eastern. Very cool. Twitchabend asking if there are certain kinships dedicated to helping each other with certain difficulty levels. Presumably landscape difficulty or perhaps delving difficulty, that sort of thing. I'm going to say most likely. There's pretty much kinships about just about everything that I'm aware of. So I would suggest heading to the forums and putting out a request for one. See if we can get someone to reach out to you and offer their services. There you are. There's a sneak. At the very least, I bet there are, say, groups within kinships that would be happy to, you know, serve that role for you. So I'm going to say probably. Just reach out to them, and I'm sure you can find someone who will help you with the specific difficulty that they might be running as well. When you want sneaks, but don't get them. So, yeah, I know people have offered us feedback that they would prefer a different visual effect for the Eye of Sauron effect on landscape difficulty. It is sort of the core of landscape difficulty. So I really don't know that I see us removing it as part of the base of the system itself. I mean, it's sort of the point. But we could perhaps in the future minimize some of the way it's presented to you. That seems something that we might be able to do. It's basically a target style effect on the higher difficulties of the landscape difficulty system, where you'll get to a point where the enemy will see you and, you know, sort of call down an attack, as it were. And it's a representation of, you know, the Eye of Sauron turning its gaze in your direction. Sneak. Alright, one more. I see you. The eye of Stampion is upon thee. All right. You can ask questions about minstrel class balancing for sure, although really the place to do that would be in the targeted discussion threads on the forums. That way the actual people involved in that classwork will be able to more adequately speak to it. I can't really read the minds of the class devs on some of this stuff, but, you know, I'd be happy to field your question, listen to it, and pass it along to the people who are actually doing the work.
What can I do for you?
Alright, so I'm going to... Actually, wait a second. Kundadak is over here. Colon... Yeah, Kundadak. Doc.
Yuritel, tell me, what do you find? We must find out who is behind this.
So I would say that the eye is optional, Irabani. The entire landscape difficulty system is optional, and one of the main aspects of the optional system is the Eye of Sauron, so you totally don't ever need to see it or encounter it. Just don't take part in this optional system. Or, if you do want to, set it to landscape difficulty 2 or 1. Plus, I think it doesn't even show up. 3 would be basically fine, too. You'll see it very rarely, but you have the option of whether you even want to see it at all. And you can just toggle it off by opting out of the landscape difficulty system. Someone is saying, Minstrel is OP, we need to nerf it. That's the balance feedback you want me to pass along to the dev? Okay. I think in wider context, though, the idea of ongoing and further class balance is something that we've been doing really over the past 6 months to a year. Quite a bit of work has been done by Orion and others related to PvMP balance, and work will continue to be done there as well. We had said really since January here that we have an ambitious goal of targeting really all the classes in 2023, and I don't know that we're going to hit all of them, but we're going to hit almost all of them, and some of the balance work will be part of that. Oh, I need to go to the right place. Not quite. Turn down the music slightly.
What do you want? You don't like what you hear, do you?
He's talking about class balance, huh? Didn't like my answer. Okay. No, Martin, or perhaps the wiki or someone, or some other location might have a place for specific buffs enemies get for every landscape difficulty, but that's not really something that we would intend to release. It's supposed to be something that you deal with by experience. Do we foresee that in the future, each class will probably have one trait line set aside as a utility line? I don't think that that's going to apply to every class, but I do think that it is something that the team has generally found to be of value as we've been doing the class updates here and looking at the trees. I think what it does to some extent is support a practice or belief that was already in place, which is, although there are 3 trait lines, 2 of them perhaps are most valuable and 1 you might want to dip into for certain things. And so as they're going through doing some of the trait tree reworks on classes, the option of making one of the trees, when appropriate, a utility tree rather than a full spec tree is something that I think we've found value in, and many players have as well. So I think it's not like, yes, every class will, this is now every class, but I do think that it's something that we'll see more of in the future, because it seems to be something that makes sense for this classwork. The goal is, of course, not to take away trees that players like to spec in. It's more if there's been a trait line that has perhaps not been taken much, if at all, due to the fact that it's not generally perceived as valuable as some of the main spec traits, then utilizing that space for a more utilitarian trait line is proven to be a fairly decent option. So I do think we'll see more of that in the future. But I don't think that we're going to, especially if we have classes, and I guess I would leave it up to you to tell me if we do, but if we have classes where all 3 trait lines are heavily taken already by the community, I think we would be cautious, maybe somewhat loath, to get rid of one of those trait lines. But in cases where yellow line has always sucked, or blue line, no one ever takes blue line, or whatever, utilizing that space for a more utilitarian option makes sense. Is there a new book, Epic Line of Quests? Where does it start? You've been away from the game for about 6 weeks. Well, I think it may have been about 6 weeks ago that we released Update 36, but Update 36 does debut a new story called The Song of Waves and Wind. And I would suggest that you go to locher.com and read the Update 36 release notes to get more information about the story. I'd have to call it up here. But this is the start of a brand new story arc in Lord of the Rings Online that debuted with Update 36 and will be carried in future updates here. If you purchase any of the quest packs that have the associated story in it, you'll get the story unlocked throughout. So you don't need to buy it every time. You just need to buy it once, and then it's unlocked forever. And that's the way we're going to be doing that. There's currently a thread about Lore Master on the forums right now. I don't know, I can't remember if we've done I'd have to go look to see what we've said about Hunter yet. But yes, I mean, the question is, are we going to be working on Hunter and Lore Master? Yes, we're going to be working on all of them. That's the intention anyway. We're gonna, if it doesn't get done all in 2023, it might dip into next year as well. But the goal is to touch every one of the classes here, and that kicked off last January. The only thing I could say, Squee, about future Legendary Worlds is what Severlin said 2 weeks ago, which is that we do have plans for additional Legendary Worlds, and we can tell you more about that as we get closer to it. But I can't say anything about that. Sorry. Also, any class balance should take into stat squish. Yes. Although the stat squish, I saw a forum thread of some people who were concerned about the implications of the stat squish. The implications should be few, hopefully. We are not doing a level adjustment, like the levels will stay what they are, but we are intending to do what's called a stat squish. That means essentially, instead of having numbers into the millions, we're going to bring it down and make it make more sense. So there'll be a more even progression throughout the range. But the goal is not to actually impact balance. It should, if we do this right, have very little impact on balance at all. Because it's just a numbers change. You know, it's just it's simply a realignment of the numbers. Because we're going from a much wider group of numbers to a somewhat smaller set of numbers, quite a bit smaller set of numbers, there will be some minor impact. But even then, you know, whereas before perhaps you would see a difference between 1,000, then the next time you'd see a difference would be 1,050, then the next time you'd see a difference would be 2,000, you know, whatever. That doesn't make sense. 1,100. And now it's 1,000, 1,001, 1,002. The impact is the same. I mean, the actual like the math behind the scenes isn't really changing. Just the numbers that display are changing to better facilitate being able to read really what you've got going on. So when we're looking at a stat squish, it's not even about balance. It really shouldn't touch balance much at all. It's really just about readability of numbers throughout the game environment. No, I'm sorry to report, Eros. I really don't think it's going to have any impact on game performance either, because again, this is simply a numbers adjustment meant for readability and parsability and just generally making things not quite so bloated in the way that numbers are displayed to you. So I don't actually expect it to have any impact on game performance or balance or combat or really much anything outside of readability. But it is something that we are intending to do here in 2023. Yeah, so things like no more 14,000 Vit gear. I mean, the impact of what 14,000 meant will stay the same. It just will have a different number. But the power, the relative power of what that number represented is not going to change. It's just going to be a different number. Alright, real quick back to the story here. What do you want, stranger? Don't like what you hear, do ya? It doesn't matter to me what you like and don't. I was just listening, man. Gondor changed once and it can change again. Folk like you might want to watch where you stick your noses. A friend of mine in Arnok heard the heirs of Castamere are gathering in strength and will soon return. Their leader survived the fighting and slipped away to safety before he could be executed. Now, Balakor plans to overthrow the new king and his foreign bride. It was them, and people like them, that brought the war upon us. The land remembers it all. We insist Balakor is very dead. Berthon snorts. That's not what my friend in Arnok says. I think I'll be listening to him instead of you.
That went well.
Now that's funny.
Be'lakor died on the
Be'lakor died on the deck of his banner ship at the hands of the army of the dead. We saw him die. About whom then do these rumors speak? Do the heirs of Castamere have a new leader? We should follow these whispers to Arnok. Perhaps there we will learn from where they began. So we're going southwest. And Lasarnok. Lasarnok? Lasarnok. Alright, I should.
How can I be of service?
So we have a few minutes left of the show. Great time to ask any final questions that you have. Reminder, we do have a 25% XP boost going on through July 4th. We have a bunch of sales in the store. We have some expansion sales in the Lotro market. We have some coupon codes that you should ought redeem. And we have the final weekend of the Midsummer Festival here as well this weekend. We've got a Bull Roarer preview set for not next week. Oh, not Bull Roarer preview. No, it's going to be a little while before we get a Bull Roarer preview. Not next week, but the week after that, we're tentatively set for update 36.1. And, yeah, I think that's really all I can really say about the calendar at the moment.
Welcome, my friend, to Arnok. What brings you hither?
I am seeking word of Corsair activity along the coast of Lasarnok, and that some folk of Gondor believe Be'lakor and the heirs of Castamere still threaten the king's peace. I do not doubt some Corsairs fled into the wild when the fighting turned against them, but their numbers must be quite small, no? I will ask around, see what I can learn. You will take care of some of the foes that do endanger Arnok. There may be some brigands as ever, but I speak mainly of wild threats, wolves, avank, any beasts that grow bold when unopposed. Alright, so that's looking pretty good. And that should just be in the general region here. Yep. So let's do that. Oh, sure. You know what? This is probably about as good a place as any. I can take care of these beasts off camera, and I suppose I could change my title from April. Alright. Arbany wants to know, I've heard you're making a new store. Will it have the old functionality? External store ? Being able to subscribe and buy points via Steam. Well, Steam is going to remain its own thing. So Steam is going to be Steam. We do have an updated Lotro store that will be getting a preview in the near future on Bull Roarer. I had posted this week that we were hoping to do our first public preview of it yesterday. But unfortunately, some technical issues prevented us from being able to actually do the store preview. But yes, in the next, something like the next couple of weeks, not next week, but perhaps the week after or week after that, something like that, we're going to have that updated store preview on Bull Roarer, so you'll be able to check it out and see what's up. Generally, it's cosmetic. This is not a full rebuild of the store to address long-term player requests or something like that. This has to do with a change of vendors and a change of some of the technology. But the actual store itself largely is intended to simply meet parity with the existing store. That said, there's a few features and adjustments that weren't previously available. We're going to have larger icons, for example, than we've had previously. The bookmarking feature is perhaps a little bit more robust. We've got a tab for coupons, which will offer some functionality in the future should we do things like buy one, get ones. I think we're going to be able to support that tech in the relatively near future. So there's a little bit here and there. But for the most part, the updated store is going to be about the same as it ever was. And that includes the external store functionality that will continue to exist. Being able to subscribe and buy points through the store will exist. At least at the version that I saw earlier this week, you can manage your subscription there or through my account, just like always. So I think basically the answer is yes to your questions. The one question that I don't think is going to be the case is being able to buy points via Steam. That the Steam functionality is simply going to remain what it is. That would be a far different endeavor to be able to allow for that kind of functionality. So it's mostly, it looks a little different. Some of the colors are different. Some of the layouts different. Some of the, like I say, the bookmarking and search tools are a little more robust. Some of the additional coupons and functionality behind the scenes are a little more robust. But for the most part, it's pretty similar to what you're used to. And I'm actually working on an article that'll go up on Lotra.com for when the store does debut. We don't have an ETA as to a public ETA as to when the updated Lotra store will arrive. Potentially something like maybe late July, maybe. We'll see. But that's something that's a bunch of people have put in quite a bit of work actually in recent weeks on. And we were hoping to give it its first public preview this week, but then we had some tech issues show up that meant we couldn't actually do it, so. No, Lyron. The same restrictions on the VIP purchasing will remain in effect. Like I say, I think I don't want to disappoint people, but I also want to set expectation, which is that the updated store is basically the same as the old store. It just looks a little different, and it's there are some differences as to like some of the vendors and vending functionality, and that's really about it. It will, however, potentially serve as a platform for future development in a way that would have been more challenging perhaps under the old environment. So, but the general intention is to keep parity and existing functionality rather than do a wider set of work to add in like a new store entirely. So. I don't want to disappoint anyone, but I'm going to say next week we'll not have a U-37 preview news. Next week is largely a holiday, except for the latter half of the week, in which case we will be busy getting ready for update 36.1. So that's what's going to be happening next week. In terms of next week's show, we'll have to see what happens there. But I should be able to do a show, and my guess is it might be some more gameplay. Perhaps I can have someone on if we have a topic that I can get someone on to talk about. But like I say, people are going to be kind of busy getting ready for update 36.1 and beyond. Yeah, next Monday and Tuesday. Next Tuesday is Independence Day in the United States, and so just about everyone's got first half of next week off. in the United States. I'd say sorry, Europeans, except that you get all those bank holidays. You get way more holidays than we do. Yes, and happy Canada Day to everyone celebrating Canada Day tomorrow. So, all right, thanks for watching Court of the Rings on twitch.tv/LotraStream. This show gets archived on YouTube every week. No longer doing it on Facebook because Facebook is not accepting 60 frames per second, only 30. It just rejects my videos if they're not 30 frames a second. So, when that gets fixed, I'll upload again to Facebook. But in the meantime, you can always find it on YouTube. You can always find it on Twitch. And I really want to thank you for watching. We've got the Tolkien Professor up next, and then Druid's Fire a little bit later on. Hope you have a great Lotra weekend, and I'll talk to you next week. Bye-bye.